Hello, I'm Melissa Shank, and today we are in Exeter, Ontario at Ellison Travel and Tours with the very own Doug Ellison. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Now, I wanted to ask you, you have been in the travel industry now for how many years?
31.
31 years, and tell me the story of this, because you've got an interesting story. You started the business back in
1980. Yes.
1980 with 3 employees, right?
3 employees.
And
That's
today,
correct.
he has over 70 employees. So how did this come to be?
Well, basically I was a school teacher. Actually, I started taking groups away in 1971 when I was asked to take a group to Manitoba. So I've really been taking groups away since 1971. So then after that I started taking student groups away at school break to places like England, Hawaii, Jamaica, things of that sort. So I got an interest in travel, and then I decided to open the office in 1980 as a hobby.
As a hobby, he says. I love it.
Anyway, but I continued to teach for 1 more year. I taught till 81, and then I took a year off to try to see what I was doing in this business, because I really wasn't a business person, and I realized that I had better pay attention to it or I was going to lose a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, and I decided just to stay in the business and get out of teaching.
Well, I think you've now become quite the business person, because you've got over 70 employees, and he continues to grow each and every day.
Well, you learn a lot along the way. I mean,
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time learning in the last 30-some years. So.
And a lot of exotic destinations, I'm sure.
Well, I've been fortunate. I mean, the reality of it is, when you get in the business, you travel to the places that you have to go to for your clients. So in many cases, because in our group business we do a lot of school trips, it might have been to start with places like Washington or New York or Quebec City, and then as we started to do international travel, then you start going to England and France and Italy and eventually Greece, and then even further afield we've ended up doing not only student groups but adult groups to places like China, to Australia, to New Zealand, South Africa, and so on.
Wow, it just continues to grow. And you know, I think that's the biggest difference that I've noticed with your travel business over other travel businesses in the industry, is that you really have developed a very niche market for yourself. I mean, you offer quite a few different things. You've got your travel and vacations, right? But as you mentioned too, on top of that, you've got tours with schools.
Right.
Which is very big. I mean, you've got a whole upper department here that just is dedicated to that, right?
Yes, we do about 500 groups a year, basically. I mean, the interesting part of it is when, I had a reasonably good job as a school teacher. I had a pension, I had health benefits, and made a reasonable salary. And when I started the business, I'm in a small town. You basically had to do everything in order to grow your business. And because I actually used to be the head of WASA Athletics in southwestern Ontario, so I knew people in schools, so I went knocking on their doors, and of course I was teaching physical and health education, so I knew those guys, but they didn't travel. But they introduced me to the music teachers and the art teachers and so on, and that's how I started picking up groups. They recommended me because they thought I was a pretty good organizer when I ran WASA, so at any rate, that's sort of how I got the group business off the ground in the 80s.
Well, even as a school teacher back in the day, a lot of people didn't even want to go on the school trips, right? Didn't you tell me that? And so then they kind of said, hey, would you take...
Well, I think the difference back in the 70s was that parents wanted their students to travel with someone at March break. Now today, very often we will have a half a dozen students come in and say, I want to go to the Dominican Republic. And that just wasn't happening in the 70s when I was a teacher. People were a little more concerned about sending their people far afield. So.
Well, and something also very unique that I find here with your business, Doug, and everyone here, is the corporate side of things as well. Your corporate tours and travel and booking meetings.
Instead of meeting planning, I mean, we do corporate travel for a number of companies, but I mean, companies do have meetings in sometimes places like Disney and sometimes on cruise ships and that type of thing, or they offer incentives to their employees. So, I mean, it was just a natural growth. When you start organizing group travel, it's just attention to detail all the way, and just depends what the interest is.
Well, what I really like most here, Doug, is the fact that you have so many different employees, but each one has their own special certification, if you will, the special focus. And so I don't think there's a question here on travel or tourism that your team couldn't answer.
Well, we can cover quite a wide area. One of the biggest differences, like some people specialize in certain areas, like even in school groups, some companies that's all they sell, and some people just sell adult groups. Because we have a travel agency and so on, where we can handle a lot of different things. If we have a group that wants to travel, like sometimes we have adults that want to go to Europe, and some of them want to stay on for a week or two, so we plan their 2-week tour to Europe, and then one of our agents in retail plans their individual travel
Nice.
somewhere in Europe
Right.
after the trip is over. So not a lot of companies can do that. So we're very diverse, and I mean, I have a very, very good staff here. So,
You do
yeah,
indeed. We
and
can
very
certainly,
knowledgeable.
we can certainly attest to
Yeah.
that. And we should make mention too that we are filming this in Doug's office, and if you can see behind us here, you have like a real plethora of items in here and a lot of great memories, I'm sure.
Well, that's why they're here. I mean, I just put them up here to remind myself that I've had a pretty good life.
Yeah, well,
You
I can
know.
tell by all of your
Yeah,
lanyards. I do the same
yeah.
thing. Of
Yeah.
all the places you've traveled,
Yes.
and anytime you are taking people on
Yeah.
tours.
I've been to a few conferences. in my
One
time.
or two to say
Yeah,
the least.
exactly.
And you know what? Definitely, please do give Doug a call, or
Yeah.
one of his 70 employees here can definitely help you out. We today are located in Exeter, but you also have offices.
And Godrich is another travel agency, and then in Vancouver, my daughter Marcy runs a group office that just basically sells group travel.
So we wanted to leave you with one final thought. You know what? You have a great motto here, you and your team, and that is
Creating memories that last. Good
And-
memories that last.
great memories that last, and they certainly do that. So give Doug and his staff and team here at Ellison Travel and Tours a call. Again, the website located on the screen, and give them a call, and they certainly do that, creating memories that last.